are you? Today, I'm going to talk to you about a drink that many people have every day, which is coffee with milk. I'm going to talk to you about metabolism, fat burning, cortisol, insulin, digestion, reflux. You're going to love it. I'll tell you about the main mistakes people make when consuming it, the timing, because that's important too. Stay until the end. You won't want to miss it. And before we start, I want to ask you, do you drink coffee with milk or not? When you drink it, do you use more milk or more coffee? Do you add anything else besides milk and coffee to your coffee with milk? Write everything for me down below in the comments. I'd love to see your comment. Go ahead and like the video because that's your way of helping me out. It's very important. Every like is really important to me and it doesn't cost you anything. And if you know someone who would enjoy this video, drinks coffee with milk, or is curious, share this video with them. Let's expand our chain of kindness. That's what I want here on the channel. A lot of people drink coffee with milk at breakfast. In the morning, as a substitute for black coffee, they feel that black coffee is heavier. It upsets the stomach more. So people drink coffee with milk because it's either smoother or just tastes better. And they want to know if they still get that caffeine kick to help them wake up. Because after all, coffee is widely used first thing in the morning to help us really wake up. Coffee contains caffeine, which stimulates the sympathetic nervous system. So when you drink coffee, your body ends up releasing adrenaline, which increases our alertness, heart rate, and can even stimulate fat breakdown, which is interesting for those who want to control their weight. So caffeine can also slightly increase energy expenditure for a few hours, which ends up being interesting, especially in the morning. So many people want to know, Patricia, if I have coffee with milk for breakfast instead of black coffee, will it have the same effect? It depends on how much coffee you put in your coffee with milk. That's actually why I asked you at the beginning, because if you take the same amount you would normally drink, a cup of coffee, and just add milk to it, that's fine. But what a lot of people do is take a glass of milk or a large cup of milk and just add a splash of coffee. In that case, obviously the amount of caffeine, the amount of bioactive compounds, chlorogenic acid, and everything else from the coffee will be greatly reduced. It's more like you're drinking something just to flavor your milk. So it will always depend on the proportion you use. If you want more of those effects of waking up, the energy boost from coffee, remember to add milk to your coffee and just improve a little bit that amount as well. A lot of people have been asking me about this issue of drinking coffee first thing in the morning because of cortisol, which is being talked about a lot on the internet. You can't drink coffee in the morning because of cortisol. It depends on what you do beforehand or how you drink your coffee. And in this case, coffee with milk can actually help you because we really do have a physiological cortisol peak in the morning, which happens to everyone. It's precisely to help us wake up, right? Cortisol is that so-called fight or flight or stress hormone, but it also has beneficial effects. It's not a complete villain. It regulates blood pressure, controls glucose, manages the inflammatory response, and helps us wake up in the morning. In fact, it naturally rises at that time. Ideally, it should rise during the first hours of the day, which is when we are supposed to wake up. So when you drink coffee, the caffeine further stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, as I mentioned to you. This increases the release of cortisol in the morning as well as adrenaline and everything else. This increase is physiological, it's acute, and it's temporary. For a normal, healthy person who sleeps well, there's no problem at all. The problem is if you are someone who has been sleeping very poorly, if you suffer from a lot of insomnia, if you are under a lot of stress, depending on the amount of coffee you drink at that time, it can make things worse. There's also the issue that when you add milk, it can help a bit compared to drinking black coffee. In the morning, specifically, if you wake up and only have black coffee, nothing else, this caffeine can increase, as I mentioned, the release of cortisol, especially when there's nothing else in your stomach, nothing else in blood flow, and it can lead to a temporary increase in glucose, a temporary reduction in insulin sensitivity, and a heightened state of alertness. The person becomes stressed, anxious, tachycardic. It seems like the person wakes up irritated. And how milk can help with the rate of absorption, it can have a complementary effect, which is interesting to help avoid these effects related to excess caffeine. Once again, it all depends on the amount. Now, there's a point that's important for us to mention. It's the issue of satiety that milk obviously brings us when you compare it to black coffee. Milk has a lot of protein in it, especially when compared to coffee, which basically has nothing, mainly whey protein, which is the whey from milk, and casein. So these milk proteins stimulate the release of satiety hormones, such as GLP-1 and peptide YY. There's been a lot of talk about GLP-1 lately because of those weight loss pens. And milk can help because of the whey protein, which is naturally present in it and can assist in the production and release of these satiety hormones. So this can really help with hunger control. There are people who feel very hungry in the morning and just have black coffee and bread with butter. So if you added some milk there and also increased the amount of protein you put on the bread with an egg, for example, it would create a different metabolic scenario to improve your weight control, satiety, and even blood sugar regulation. So that's an interesting tip. If you're someone who is always very hungry in the morning, making this change instead of drinking black coffee, having it with skim milk could be an interesting option for you. And regarding digestion, reflux, gastritis, because that's a very interesting point to discuss. Because coffee is naturally more acidic and milk has a more basic pH, so many people who have reflux, gastritis, or some kind of gastric discomfort choose to drink milk with coffee to try to improve things in that regard. And they feel that, even so, they still experience some discomfort. So it's important for us to check whether this person doesn't have some type or degree of lactose intolerance, because this can happen to people over 50 years old, especially people who are already older. And this type of sugar, naturally present in milk, can ferment, can cause bloating, can lead to discomfort, a feeling of fullness, the sensation of poor digestion. Sometimes the person experiences very, very slow digestion, and even hours later still feels a heaviness in the stomach and blames the coffee, thinking, "This coffee with milk. I need to drink coffee in the morning, but I didn't do very well with black coffee, so I added milk, and it still didn't get any better." It could be that it's an issue with milk, that for you have some kind of lactose intolerance. Sometimes it's not that kind of intolerance that causes diarrhea or a lot of intestinal gas, but it does cause gastric discomfort. In this case, you could try using a plant-based milk. I have a playlist of plant-based milks to choose from to dilute your coffee, making it less acidic and harsh on the stomach for those looking for a lactose-free option. Or you could even choose lactose-free cow's milk and see how your body reacts. You can try this out and then let me know which one worked better for you or not. A very common mistake among people who drink coffee with milk, especially those who want to lose weight, is making the wrong choices. There are two things that many people do wrong with coffee with milk. First, using whole milk, which for those who are trying to lose weight is not the best choice because it contains saturated fat, and in a glass, the amount is quite high compared to skim milk, which has zero fat. So if you can choose skim milk, it will be better for you. It will have fewer calories and less fat, especially saturated fat, which isn't the type of fat we prioritize or favor that much in our daily consumption. So reducing fat is very beneficial. And be careful when sweetening as well. Some people sweeten their coffee with milk even though milk is already naturally sweet because it contains lactose and has that slightly sweet flavor. Still, many people add sugar. So be careful, because if you drink 2 or 3 large coffees with milk throughout the day with fat, with whole milk, with sugar, sometimes you might be consuming more than 400 or 500 calories a day just from coffee with milk, a liquid beverage, which can have a big impact on your weight loss or weight maintenance. So be careful with the coffee with milk from these gourmet coffee shops or the ones you get at the bakery. If you're at the bakery, ask for it without sugar, with skim milk if they have it. These days, there's usually the option for us to choose. And make these changes because especially with these gourmet coffee shops, which have flavors, essences, aromas, sometimes they add hazelnut aroma or some kind of syrup, something like chocolate, and then it ends up having a lot of calories. So be careful with these gourmet coffee with milk drinks, as they can also harm your health. We still need to talk about the issue of calcium and iron absorption because we know that the calcium from milk is present there. And if you're someone who usually drinks coffee with milk, like after lunch or after dinner, because there are people who have a little coffee after lunch and dinner, and there are others who add milk to their coffee because they don't drink it black. There's also this issue of calcium and iron absorption. Because usually during the main meals, that's when you're going to consume the most iron, from beans, meat, eggs, and so on. And when you eat foods that are rich in calcium, in this case, even coffee can hinder iron absorption if consumed in large amounts. It's not the best time for you to have it. So, if you can, try to have your coffee with milk at breakfast or as an afternoon snack, away from your main sources of iron, so you don't compromise absorption in that regard. There's also another interesting point to mention, which is that sometimes people say, I started drinking coffee with milk, but I felt like I gained weight. And it's not really because of the coffee with milk itself, but rather that habit trigger. Some people say things like, coffee with milk goes well with cake, coffee with milk goes well with cookies, coffee with milk goes well with a toasted roll. Be careful with that, because sometimes it wasn't the coffee with milk you started drinking. It was the fact that you went to the bakery, sat down, saw a carrot cake, and ordered it. Or maybe you ordered a toasted roll. It's the routine you associate with coffee with milk. But if you simply make a good choice by having coffee with skim milk, without sugar, in a moderate amount throughout your day, obviously, it won't be that coffee with milk or two that you add to your routine that will make you gain weight. When we think about weight control, blood sugar control, in short, health, it's never a single food or a single drink that's the villain, if you consume it in isolation or even in small amounts throughout the day. What really matters are your habits. So remember that you need to help yourself maintain your health and weight. I have a playlist here on how to lose weight healthily, and there's a video about nutritional education. And I'll leave all of that down here to help you as a compliment. If you have any questions, talk to your doctor or your nutritionist there in your city. Remember that this video is for informational purposes only. Let me know, do you usually drink coffee with milk, black coffee? Or does your coffee with milk have something else in it? Or is it just milk with coffee? What kind of milk do you use? I would love to see your comment. Remember to like the video, that helps me a lot, and share it with those who would enjoy it and those who need it. Let's expand our chain of kindness. That's what I want here with the channel. See you next time. Bye.